Hey, Quad Bros, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Glad to have you guys here and hope you guys are doing well. This is part 2 of 3 of our tank series. If you want to see part 1, I've got a card up in the top right, and I'm sure part 3 will have one as well when that releases, and of course they'll be in the description below as well. This episode of our tank series is going to be going over the in-battle stuff, all right? So part 1 was going over the fundamentals, how to drive, what the reticules mean, the UI, all that good stuff. This is going to be the actual tactics. This is going to be how to use your tanks. This is how to battle, what you should be thinking about, what you should be doing while you guys are in your tanks and playing. We're going to have a section going over some basic information that always applies. Then we're going to have an anti-infantry section, and finally a tank versus tank combat section. So without anything else, guys, let's jump into it. So the first thing I want to talk about here, guys, is what the role of the tank is on the battlefield. All right, and the role of the tank on the battlefield in Enlisted is effectively to kill anything that the infantry is otherwise incapable of killing. This means enemy tanks, this means machine gun nests, this means, concentrations of enemy infantry. Really, you're supporting the infantry, right? It's combined arms. You support them and they support you. So always kind of keep that in the back of your head. Remember that, you shouldn't be pushing up too far in front of your infantry. We'll talk about which tanks should be where and kind of how far you can kind of go. But most tanks in Enlisted do not want to be too far ahead of their infantry, because it doesn't matter what kind of tank you're in. It doesn't matter if it's a Tiger, a Jumbo, a King Tiger, not in the game yet, obviously, but, it doesn't matter. An explosive pack is going to blow you to smithereens, right? And they're very easy. It just takes one guy who happens to sneak past everybody, or even one guy who's just next to you, to blow you up with an explosive pack. So you need your infantry nearby supporting you. You need your infantry around you to screen the enemy infantry. And they're not going to be able to do that if you're not supporting them. If you're not taking out the machine gun nests on, maps like D-Day, a lot of the Normandy maps, or in Moscow, like Fortified District, you need to take out those machine gun nests. You need to be taking out these concentrations of enemies, and just generally kind of keeping the enemy at bay and dealing some serious damage, because you can't cap anything, but you do have a lot of firepower. So you need to use that to support your infantry, all right? And hopefully they support you back. Now, next up is situational awareness. This is the most important thing, I think, for tankers. And it's probably the thing I see the absolute least from enemy tankers. I can't tell you guys how many free kills I get because the enemy tankers are simply not paying attention, all right? In Enlisted, there is tons of information to let you as a tanker know what kind of enemy vehicles are around on the battlefield, right? You can see in the kill feed whenever there's something like a 50mm cannon or a 7.92 machine gun kill, you know that there's an enemy vehicle running around, and you probably know exactly what the vehicle is based on the cannon. So as an example here, you can see I saw my friend get blasted. I see in the kill feed 50mm KWK cannon, and there we go. I know, oh, there's a Puma. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to push up here. I'm going to move. I see the Puma, and I know it's a Puma because it has a 50mm. That's the only thing in Normandy, so I'm not really scared of it. I get kind of trolled by the sandbags here, take a bad shot, but I end up taking this thing out. So it's just a good example of taking out an enemy vehicle just because of the fact that, hey, I saw it in the kill feed. I know it's there, right? And there's another one up there in the corner. You can see 7.92. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I didn't actually notice that, and I really should have. I did hear a shot from my right. Again, another thing, listen for shots. Know what tanks sound like. Tigers especially have a very, very distinct sound. And again, I know what this Panzer III is capable of doing. I know he's probably not going to be able to penetrate me from the front, so I just show armor. I'm good, easy shot there. So understanding the tanks, understanding the sounds, you're going to hear enemy tanks and you're going to see muzzle flashes a hell of a lot sooner than you're going to see anything else from these vehicles, right? So it is incredibly important for you guys to be kind of thinking about these situations as you're playing the game, right? Now, here's another example. I'm pushing up. I'm supporting my team as best they can. I saw there in the kill feed was a 75mm cannon. I'm going to easily take out this tank. This guy's not paying attention. I literally killed this guy earlier. He knows that I'm still in the 76mm because I was my first spawn. He can look at the scoreboard and see that I have 0 deaths, and he would know that I'm still in the game, and he should be keeping an eye out for me. But instead, he's just trying to farm kills. He's not thinking about the situation, and because of that, he ends up getting himself killed and wasting a tank spawn, right? It's very important to be just thinking, even just the baseline here, guys, the baseline amount of thinking. Again, I see machine gun tracers. I know there's a tank up here. Those tracers only show up from enemy vehicles and MG42 nest, but I know there's no MGs up there. So I see those tracers. I knew I killed a Tiger earlier in this match, so I really don't want to be aggressive. But I know that a Tiger's not going to have the gun depression to hit me here, so I go off to shoot some infantry. I'm kind of keeping it in the back of my head. I want to fire off another shell, and then I'm going to turn back and I'm going to look. I see it's just a Puma. Great. I'm not really scared. He takes a shot. He misses. And then he's going to get scared, I guess, and then drive full speed into the trench. I don't really know what he's doing. Puma players be wild. But again, guys, this is just kind of showing off how you guys should be thinking, how you guys should be playing. Use the information that is available to you and play smart. Now, next up is positioning. One of the most important parts of tanking, of course, is positioning. Your positioning really depends a lot on your vehicle. The heavier your vehicle is, the further back you want to be. But both heavy vehicles and medium vehicles, we'll talk about light vehicles, they want good lines of sight. All right, they want to be able to see a good distance in front of them. Again, you do not want to be sitting on a hill in the back of the map, but you do want to be able to support your infantry and be on top of stuff by having a nice open line of sight to hit enemy infantry, to hit enemy tanks and stuff like that as they come around corners. You do not want to be in close quarters urban combat. You don't want to be driving by windows, because it's very easy for enemy infantry to hide in buildings and then throw an explosive pack out the window from the safety of their cover. That's a good way to die. Now, the heavier your tank, again, the further back you typically want to be. If you're in a heavy tank like the Tiger or the Jumbo, you probably want to be, behind your infantry, not super far back, but, you want your infantry generally in front of you, right? And the reason for this is because you can't really dodge explosive packs in a Tiger, even uncooked ones. It can be kind of a pain because they're so immobile, right? They're not maneuverable vehicles. While medium tanks like the Shermans or the Panzer IVs, the T-34, stuff like that, things that have a little bit of speed to them, those you can afford to be kind of in the center of your infantry, in the thick of the fighting. That's where you want to be, laying down constant shots from your main cannon, just concussing enemies, laying down, HE, and just doing as much damage as possible, right? That's kind of the goal of the mediums. And you have enough speed to where you can get out of the way of an uncooked explosive pack. A cooked explosive pack will definitely take you out still, but hopefully your infantry will be able to screen out enemy infantry who is trying to cook an explosive pack and take you out. Now, light vehicles are kind of the weird ones. They're so fast and mobile that typically you want to be flanking around the sides of the enemy objectives. You want to be cutting off enemy reinforcements or flanking enemy vehicles, right? You want to be trying to hit the enemy as they move into the objective and let your team kind of take them out. You want to be always moving in light vehicles. If you stop moving, you're probably going to get killed by an explosive pack. They're fast enough to where a cooked explosive pack is not really going to be able to do anything to them, because they're going to be able to get out of the way of it, most of the time at least. So you want to always be moving whenever you guys are in these light vehicles, right? You want to always be trying to stay one step ahead of the enemy infantry, just kind of causing chaos in the backline. You don't even need to be necessarily killing a lot of enemies. More so, you just need to be distracting them and causing them pain, killing their squad AI, leaving them with less and less reinforcements, concussing them as they try to move the objective, and making them kind of think twice about wanting to move up, because there could be a little bit of a tank sitting somewhere dealing some major damage. So let's move on to talking about fighting enemy infantry on the battlefield. Now, positioning, what your tank is capable of, where you should be, how you should be thinking. So now all it is shooting the enemy infantry, and it's really just that, right? You throw in your HE and you just continuously sling HE everywhere and anywhere. So in this clip, I'm in the Panzer IV-E. Look on the map, the mini map there, you can see I have my infantry around me. I know that they're screening my left. I don't need to worry about that. My right is the kind of exposed area, so I'm just going to be firing HE. I'm going to be firing in this building. This takes some map knowledge. You need to know kind of where people tend to be. I know that enemy infantry love to build spawn beacons and love to hold this kind of brick warehouse, or I guess it's stables, in this area here. So I'm just going to be firing HE as best I can. Anytime I'm getting hit markers, more shots, I'm going to be downing enemies. I'm going to be damaging enemies. I'm going to be concussing enemies. All of these things are going to be things that help my infantry take the objective, right? So we easily take that objective, and then we move up, and I want to clear them out, right? I'm just going to be firing HE as best I can. Now, the Panzer IV-E is a particularly good vehicle when it comes to doing stuff like this. Its main cannon reloads very quickly. It's got a massive gun on it, so it can do some serious damage. Not all vehicles can do this, right? A lot of vehicles have, like the Sherman, have longer reload times. They're not able to quite do as much damage as the Panzer IV-E can do in such a short amount of time. And so when you're on those vehicles like the Panther, even the Tiger, stuff like that have a little bit longer reload times, you don't want to be firing your main cannon at just single enemies. You want to be using your machine gun for that. The machine gun on most vehicles is your primary anti-infantry weapon. And this, again, it depends majorly on the vehicle. Some vehicles have really long reload times and long fire rates, like the American, the British vehicles have a very large magazine size for the machine guns, but they fire slowly. Again, I went over this in my previous video, I believe, so go check that out. But the point here is, guys, use your machine guns, constantly harass enemy infantry. You want to be downing them. You want to be killing them. You want to be focusing on the objective itself. Cut off their reinforcements. Just be a general headache for the enemy infantry by dealing damage, killing them, concussing them, making it harder for them to effectively fight your infantry. Because again, that's the role of the tank. You support your infantry. You want to make it a massive pain in the ass for the enemy infantry to fight your infantry and give a massive edge for your guys. And you can rack up a ton of kills by doing this, right? Groups of enemy, rushing to the objective, slap some HE down. Enemy infantry trying to hold an objective or hold a building, slap some HE down, right? Buildings are a great place to sling HE into because it will contain that explosion, do significant damage inside. Keep in mind, whenever you're firing at enemy infantry, one really great tip is surprisingly hitting enemy infantry directly is actually a lot more effective than hitting like the ground near them. I don't know why this is. This is a really weird thing, but it has always been the case in Enlisted for some reason. When you direct hit enemy infantry, it will have it'll have a massive explosion radius as compared to just shooting the ground near them. So if you can, try to direct hit enemy infantry because you will do significantly more damage as opposed to just hitting the ground around them. But slinging an HE into a building can do significant damage as well. Just keep in mind that HE is really inconsistent in Enlisted. It's really weird. Sometimes it seems like it does nothing. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just nukes an entire room. So that's why you want to be constantly firing and constantly doing damage, because you never know when your shell is just going to wipe out 12 guys plus, right? So that's really it for infantry, guys. If you're playing smart, like I've talked about in the previous kind of sections of this video, and you guys are constantly moving up with your infantry and have them around, as you can see here, I pushed up way too far. I got a little too aggressive. I wanted to kind of support the objective, and I ended up getting explosive packed. I don't have screening, and I end up going down here. But I realized I'm going to die, so I switched to HE, and I just start blasting anyone and everything that moves. And finally, tank versus tank combat in Enlisted. Now, this normally boils down to whoever shoots first, and if you've been following the tips in this video and in my previous video, then you should be the one shooting first, and you should be winning upwards of 80% plus of your fights. But in the event that you do have to go head-to-head with an enemy vehicle, then these are some tips to help you guys out. So number one, of course, make sure your armor is faced towards the enemy. You want your front armor faced towards the enemy because your front armor is the most heavily armored part of your tank, right? That's pretty obvious there. The most heavily armored part of your tank is the part that is the least likely to get penetrated by the enemy. So make sure that that is always facing towards the enemy. We'll talk about angling and stuff like that in a future video. Now, next up is getting your shot off as soon as possible and where to shoot. So in the event that neither of you have shot yet and you're both aiming up your shots, it is better to take a more mediocre shot, a more rush shot, and hope for some lady luck to help you out a little bit than it is to try to aim your shot perfectly and then let your enemy, get lucky or something like that. I personally like to just take my shot as soon as possible. I'm not saying to make a super hasty shot that is like guaranteed to miss, and a lot of the times you don't have the time to do this, but it is very important to get that shot off as soon as possible and just hope for a little bit of luck to be thrown your way and gifted towards you. If you think that you can get that first shot off accurately, then go for it. But there's a ticking clock whenever you both have seen each other for whoever's going to get that first good shot off, and you want to be the player that does that. So personally, I hope for a little bit of luck and I go for those shots. Most of the time, guys, again, you shouldn't be taking these head-on engagements in the first place. Now, as for where to shoot, Normally, you want to be shooting somewhere that is going to incapacitate the enemy tank. This means going for the turret, going for the gunner, stuff like that, to make sure that they can't shoot back and they're not going to ever even be able to get one shot off on you, let alone multiple. So if you can take out the enemy barrel, you know, say you're in a jumbo versus a tiger, if you can get the enemy barrel knocked out, then you'll be able to just flank out the tank and they won't be able to do anything, or maybe gun down their crew as they try to get out and repair, right? Again, guys, honestly, don't take these head-on engagements. If you're following the tips from these previous videos and from this video itself, you just shouldn't ever have to worry about head-on engagements. You should know where the enemy is and you should be able to take them out before they even think about shooting at you in the first place. But again, in the event that you have to, incapacitate the enemy tank, show your armor, take out their armament, their barrel, their guns as best as you possibly can, and make sure that you're getting a shot off sooner than they are and hopefully incapacitating them. So here, I'm in a Firefly. I can see those shots in the distance. I know there's an enemy tank up here. Unfortunately, I'm in a Firefly, so it's very easy, and this guy's in a great position. So I'm going to switch over to my gunner sight. I can see he's aiming at me. I'm just going to take a snapshot, right? I took a quick shot. I got pretty lucky with the shot, and I went right through that guy's turret. He's now completely incapacitated. He's not going to be getting a shot off. I got unlucky with my shot. And you can see I'm doing a little bit of a wiggle every time that I shoot and while I'm reloading. The reason for this is that it's it's knocking off his aim, right? He doesn't even he can't get a good shot off if I keep kind of moving around and I keep kind of repositioning my gun and my my armor. He's not able to get a perfect shot off by me just doing that little wiggle, right? But again, his horizontal turret drive was knocked out with my first shot, and I was able to pretty easily win that fight without taking any significant damage in any way. So again, guys, you want to get your shot off as soon as possible, and you want to incapacitate the enemy tank as best as you can, as fast as you can. That is it, guys. That is the tank guide for Battlefield tanking in Enlisted. There is so much more to go over here, and I will be making more tank guide videos going over, you know, heavy tanks, medium tanks, light tanks, going over some advanced tips and tricks for tanking in Enlisted. But hopefully this gives you guys an absolute kind of, you know, baseline and gives you a good overview to being more effective tankers in Enlisted. So remember, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments some tips that you guys have for Battlefield tanking, right? There's already a bunch of great tips on the first video for this, and I'd love to hear your guys' other recommendations and other tips for tanking on the battlefield itself. Remember, you can always follow me, twitch.tv/HeyQuadro, and I'd love to have you guys over there and join a great community. And you can join our Discord as well. The link for that stuff is in the description below, guys. But without anything else, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.